So, I came back from Anime Tyler. Time to discuss my experiences with the con, and after action report of what I saw and experienced. My simulacrum and pony versions aren't really going to be present here, but don't worry, they will have a purpose in the next review. So to begin with, getting to Tyler, Texas. I won't go into too much detail, just know that it was quite a trip. Anyway, got in a day early because I wanted to be present for the opening ceremonies on Saturday. Went around the general area looking at comic book stores, a used Lego store, even found a Warhammer store. One complaint I do have is the 6-lane road of hell. Yeah, getting around in this area was a nightmare. So outside of Friday, I wasn't really planning on leaving the hotel property. Keep that in mind for later. Talked with the staff about video recording to get the okay due to my lack of press pass. See, earlier I had applied for a press pass. I was initially given one, but was later rescinded due to a miscommunication over what I intended to record, basically this video. But good thing to check up on. But do keep this in mind for later. For now, just know that I was test driving the Action 4 camera. Waking up, I decided to wear my Digi-Destiny hoodie in safety green, my cargo pants with fire safety orange pack from an army surplus store, and blue Crocs. This is what peak male performance looks like, people. Gaze upon me, O mighty and despair. I decided to get breakfast at Einstein Bros Bagel Place. I like bagels, what can I say? Traffic wasn't too bad, so I was able to get in and out fast. At the hotel, I waited for the con to begin, and at 10 a.m., it opened. With little fanfare. So one thing the con had was that they used this app called Fan Guru. All the panels of this event were listed in the app. I would have preferred a paper itinerary, but hey, that's a minor thing. What I will say is that the app said that there was opening ceremonies from 10 to 10:20, but we had nothing. I don't know, it would have been nice to have something, like say, con staff saying, hello, maybe introduce us to the mascot anime, especially since this was the con's first year. But hey, it's the first year, these things happen. I checked out the vendor hall, it was a small space, but the center was small. It's to be expected. Going in, I was expecting to find 3 items. The first being a Klingon batleth, since these cons are like sci-fi cons and unlike the katana,
I would prefer a batleth.
The second being a police Zaku kit because I like Gundam Quacks. Quick disclosure, this convention was not 18+. It was intended more as an all-ages con, which is a good thing because cons like these can have a certain reputation to them. That being said, I do believe 2, possibly 3 of the vendors did sell some slightly adult stuff. One I am not certain, while the other would not show the art unless you showed ID. The third one, okay look, it was like, I think interspecies reviewers Blu-ray, but you had to really look and hunt to find it at the stand. You know, again, you really had to hunt for it. A standard con goer probably wouldn't have found any of this stuff. So that's okay. Unfortunately, I could not find my items. There was a weapons dealer, but mostly katanas, and I was priced out of such bladed weapons, even the prop weapons. As for Gunpla, no dealer sold any. I did get this Machu print, but do keep this in mind, the Gunpla comment. Other than these things, I bought some charms during the con, some manga and indie books from a dealer, even got Summer Wars, because I like children's war game that much. My first panel was Card Game Anime Made Being a Weeb Cool, run by Haruji Suffering. It was, in my opinion, the second best panel of a con, and that includes the main guest panels except one. Regardless, it was a good panel on the history of anime and card games from a seasoned card player. Shame Moore did not see it. Second panel was an audiobook panel. That was cancelled. So instead I went to Rika Fajardo's panel on improv. It was alright, but I left, it wasn't my thing. Instead, I decided to walk around and check the card games, which was all the way in the back and off the show floor. Yeah, this was not a good look. Like, if I didn't know these guys were part of the con, I would have assumed that they were a separate thing. But enough foreshadowing, my next panel was Mason Lieberman on anime games music. I also left this one, again, it wasn't for me. These things happen. Next, I went to Am I the Baka? It was an audience participation panel where the panelists would read off Reddit posts from Am I the Asshole? But because this isn't 18+, it was Baka. They also added in some anime characters to the debate. It was alright, but not what I was expecting from the con. But it was the first year. Next up was the Magic Draft, or so the app told me. Turns out there was a scheduling error and the draft would not start till 5. Remember this. So I went to Getting Into Voice Acting by Joel McDonald. I loved this panel, and in my opinion, it was my favorite panel of the entire con. Joel gave some very good advice and even hawked his book, which I bought off of Amazon because I did not know he was selling these at the con, something I learned he was since I went to go talk to him. It also turns out someone was shortchanging him. Yeah, Amazon was selling his book lower than what he was selling. Turns out price check came into effect when someone was selling his book lower. Something about bootlegs, I think. Regardless, he did not know until the morning, if I recall. So yeah, I bought 2 copies. One from Amazon and one from Joel. He even signed my copy. Thank you, Joel. Afterwards, I went to another panel. I think it was Cayman Casey's on stage combat. Again, did not stay long, not my thing. But then I went to the Magic draft and learned I was the only one. Sort of. So there was one other player with the possibility of 2 more. The 2 did join, but I think they confused a standard tournament with a draft. Regardless, I wanted to do a draft tournament, so I paid admission for one of the contestants, because again, I wanted to do the draft. We eventually had 6 players, but only because one of the card shop employees joined in. I played a black deck and lost in the first round, which is good because I went to the cosplay showcase and missed like half of the showcase. That's on me, I should have paid attention to the time. Probably not join a draft no one was playing. So I walked back to the card dealer and learned I was still in, because one of the games was still going on. The player was new, so it makes sense. I ultimately made 3rd place due to a forfeiture. I won a pin. Hey, it's something. As the day came to a close, I went to the campfire panel to discuss some weeb stories. I met Macho Man Randy Savage.
Hogan is so B so I can lay the smack down on his candy ass.
Okay, so this is Captain Mexico of the Geeks 5 Ever channel. He also, I think, managed the karaoke? Maybe? I don't fully know. As for the panel, it was alright. I told my story of how Sonic X takes place in Ohio. It has to do with social security numbers. Next was karaoke. It was a fun little event, technically part of the Eat Sing Dance event. Different participants added their songs. As for me, I added the most manly song of them all. I love you, I was the only one doing a Japanese song. Did I mention I'm trying to learn Japanese? Anyway, I watched a few others before heading out, but not being told by Note of Grace, one of the press pass holders and a friend I made, that I sang 24 Hour Cinderella. Note of Grace told me that Jim Ferranda, one of the guests, said it was his favorite performance. So Note introduced me to Jim and we got talking. This was my favorite part of the con. It's one thing to walk to a guest, be impressed and talk. It's another when you impress the guest. It was fun to learn he was a fan of Yakuza and he also used Pimsleur to learn Japanese. But the best compliment he gave me was that I sounded like an authentic drunk Japanese salaryman doing karaoke. That may seem like a weird compliment, but given how karaoke is done in Japan and how one is expected to not be that great at it, it was an amazing compliment. Time to learn Japanese to the horror of all of Japan. And with that, I went to bed. Not much to really say on Sunday. Went to early mass, had some bagels, and then checked out of my room. I stayed on property because I wanted to see the closing ceremonies. So to pass time, I went to my first panel of the day, What's Your Quirk? It was a My Hero panel about what we would be in the My Hero universe. In my case, my hero's name is Frank, with my quirk's name being Police Squad. Basically, I can warp reality, but I have to keep it straight.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
After this, went to a panel about the Power Rangers hosted by Captain Mexico. It was an okay panel, more about the lore of Power Rangers. Did help me learn about Saban. Later went to the guest Q&A, which was alright. I felt Melaine Jasmine was left out, or at least not many questions asked her way. Next, made one last check on the vendor hall and got this Gora decal. Sad to hear about her graduation, but I do hope the best for her. Also got this Charizard, Squirtle, and Guilmon charms. The Charizard was for my brother. The last panel I went to was Wig Forming 201. A nice panel, has me thinking about plans for next year. Finally, there was the closing ceremonies. Basically, it was a giveaway. See, throughout the con, we got these tickets for every panel we went to, and these would be drawn for prizes. I won nothing, but hey, you win some, lose some. And that was Anime Tyler, a pretty good event. I had a lot of fun at this con. The karaoke certainly being a high point for me. Also fun to introduce people to Destiny. So remember folks, wearing the merch of your favorite group helps. But before I say of what I think about going again, I want to give my overall opinion. I think for a first year con, it was a good foot forward and what this group can do. That being said, there is some room for improvement. First off, advertisement. See, on the day coming in, I went around Tyler to different stores to act as a tourist. I also talked with shop owners about why I was there because, I wanted to chat. Practically no one knew this con was here. Brick and minifigures down the road from the hotel did not know. Ground Zero Comics, as far as I can tell, did not know, or at least did not advertise they know. The Warhammer store down the road didn't know. Hobbytown USA did not know. known, Einstein Bros did not know, Walgreens knew, but not of the location or date. Game Exchange knew of the event that Friday. The only store that knew of the con was Ming's Cafe in front of the hotel. They even had flyers, but like, why don't the others? Okay, I can understand bricks and minifigures, the Warhammer store, and Einstein Bros not knowing, there's not much overlap. But Ground Zero, Hobby Lobby, and Game Exchange do. These three stores sold Gunpla, with Ground Zero and Game Exchange selling manga and figurines. And it's not like those stores wouldn't advertise. Game Exchange even had posters up for another con in June. So the fact that none of these places had posters up or flyers is really weird. Like I said, the only place that had any flyers was Ming's Cafe. In fact, I kind of get the feeling the advertisement for this con was kind of lackluster. Now that being said, I have been told that there were flyers and posters earlier, and this was the day prior to the con. Still, it's a bit off. Another thing. So if you go to Anime Tyler's website, you'll see links to different social media. And while these are now occupied by content, when I first went into this, they were empty. Let me explain them. You got Facebook, which was more or less promoting the website. Their Twitter at the time was dead, which is why would you advertise this? Especially since you have Blue Sky, which is not being listed on the website. You have TikTok, which at the time had nothing. A YouTube channel, which while it now has stuff, it didn't have at the time. And an Instagram, which was, there's no excuse for TikTok and YouTube to have no content at the time. Probably put up a promo video or something. Otherwise, it looks like the con is dead or abandoned. The only reason I knew of this con existing was because I found a listing of different cons. And this is all a shame because the con put so much into their website and flyers. Like, love and effort was put into this. Hopefully these issues will be fixed later, because right now, I don't know, it feels like there was something early on that didn't quite click. Next is the card vendor, who honestly I feel was kind of shafted at the event. Now, I was told that card games are kind of on the down low, but still, they are part of the event. So these guys were technically a part of the con, but nowhere near the main floor. For context, here's me walking from the main floor to the card vendors. Yeah, this is a relatively long walk. What's more is little was done to show these guys are part of the con. Now remember how I said I wanted a press pass? Yeah, I would have been with the card guys. I can tell you, nothing was going to happen. I feel for Game Crave. These guys set up a great little card section. Don't get me wrong, they made sales, but I do feel like they got the short end of the stick on this. But that's just my observation and Next up, the food situation. The only two places to eat was Sonic and Ming's Cafe. They are in walking distance, but that Texas heat, man. Going off property? Yeah, no, that 6-lane road of hell just made things worse. Personally, next year, maybe get a food truck or something on or near property, because yeah, it wasn't that great. The vendor area, well, how do I put it? It was mostly art. And while that's fine, I kind of would have liked something more than just artwork. Maybe have some imports, gunpla items. I suppose this was the feel they were going for, that this was an art hall, but to me, I don't have much use to buy art prints. I much prefer special things. This is just me. I just kind of wish there was more variety here, like say imports or a bookseller. They did have some, but it's just not enough. I should also point out Melaine Jasmine was in the vendor area, or at least should have. I don't know if she was busy or what, but I never saw her at her stall. Small nitpick, but it's kind of weird seeing a table set up and no one there. Speaking of guests, there were 2 guests that appeared on Saturday night. I don't know if they just got in late or if there was something else. It was a bit weird. Finally, the ticket situation. So apparently every panel you went to, you would get a ticket, except the con did a poor job of giving these tickets out. At first, I thought I was only getting tickets at events that did not have a headline guest. So it gets weird during the giveaway when one participant wins like 5 prizes and you say, oh, they went to all the panels. And me and the participant next to me are commenting on how we went to panels and no one gave tickets at some of them. I don't know how to rectify this other than using something digital, but I don't know. I will say it would have been helpful with an opening ceremony explaining this, but I digress. Understand, my critiques are not to put this con down, just what I think should be considered for the future. If I was to say what my biggest problem was, it was the size of the location. But given that this was the con's first year, I can forgive this. Next year, maybe get a better use of the space or something, but that's just me. Which begs the question, will I go next year? To which I say, I have no idea. I would like to go next year to see where this con goes. I also want to cosplay next year, and I have some ideas. I am looking forward to going next year, but I have no idea because of recent events. So there was one cloud that hanged over this con. At the first panel, the one about card games, the panelists brought up tariffs and how the future of card games is kind of up in the air, and not necessarily in a good way. So you may be thinking it's money related, and sure, money is a problem. These things do get expensive. Liking and subscribing does help as it tells YouTube I'm worthy of advertisement, but money is not the main problem, it's a symptom. The problem is politics. Captain Mexico at the Fireside Story talked about a time at another con he was at that he was almost arrested due to a misunderstanding with demonstrations due to a certain politician. This also wasn't my first time hearing about Tyler. Aziel, a YouTuber I watched, did an interview with someone and they discussed the issues in Tyler, Texas. What I am trying to say is that I want to go to Anime Tyler the second year. The community this con had was great. It's a community that cares for one another. How much, you ask? Well, there was an interpreter at the panels signing for one of the participants. There was a row at every panel reserved for ADA. So this community cares for one another to go out of their way to help one another. And I want to see more of that. And I worry that with everything going on, something outside of Anime Tyler's control will disrupt that. I want to go to Anime Tyler for a second year. I want to go dressed up as Pimp Hank Hill, or Caiaphas Kane, or as Yuri from Red Alert 2. I want to be able to make another announcement video saying, hey guys, guess what? I'm going to Anime Tyler. Again, I want to be able to host a panel, and if I don't go, I want it to be because of work or sickness, not because politics got involved. With that being said, I liked Anime Tyler, and I do hope I can go next year. I had a great time, and I think my biggest takeaway was learning that, voice actors and the guests, they may seem all powerful, but they're just like us. They're fans of this. And I think that was probably the best point that I had at this con. That being said, this has been a Botluck Productions After Action Report.